No student should have to borrow to pay tuition at a public college.
The American people think it's absurd that our young people are leaving school deeply, deeply in debt, and young people can't afford to go to college.
I think that we can all safely agree that college should not be about maximizing revenue, especially for state schools. The question isn't really whether college is a good deal, it's whether college could be a better deal.
Tuition was very cheap at the state schools. I paid $16 a semester when it started, and $32 I think it was in my senior year. But yeah, it was a lot different back then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I absolutely do think it's different. And truly, when you're talking about the increase of colleges, I mean, the pricing, our UCs are up to $34,000, and you know, it's definitely a different ballgame financially. I think the onus should be on the state. Our taxes fund, you know, public works, and I think what we are seeing in California especially is that they have heard the people. The UCs especially have been taking more outside students from out of state, therefore higher tuition that they get.
Hey, thank you so much.
You're welcome, honey.
That's perfect.
We all know going to college is expensive, but has it always been that way?
In-state tuition for UCs and CSUs has more than tripled in the last 20 years. During the recent recession, the California legislature cut the general fund, a fund that covers all state appropriation support to UCs and CSUs by 20%, shrinking the state's contribution from $6.2 billion in 2007 to $5 billion in 2013. The universities responded by shifting more of the burden to the student through higher tuition. As shown in Figure 1, the amount that California pays to support CSUs and UCs has sharply declined since the beginning of the 21st century and has been at a continuous low these recent years. In response, in-state tuition for CSUs and UCs has rapidly increased as presented in Figure 2. If the federal government were to grant California more money in the form of discretionary funding and categorical grants, the state government would have the option to allocate more money towards the UC and CSU systems in an effort to lower tuition.
A common misconception as to why the price of college tuition is rising so rapidly is that colleges are beginning to increase their internal costs, like administrative costs and salaries, and charging more in tuition in order to compensate. However, this first graphic shows that both UC and CSU system faculty salaries have been relatively stagnant and in some cases have decreased over the years as tuition has gone up. Additionally, the second graph demonstrates that administrative costs, or day-to-day expenditures, have also remained stagnant as well. Contrary to popular belief, the UC and CSU's internal costs are not the problem for rising tuition, but rather it is a lack of government funding on the state and federal levels.
This pie chart depicting California's spending in the last year illustrates just how little California is able to allocate towards higher education, 8.7% in 2015. According to Federal Tax Board California organization, higher education costs in California are aimed towards career skills, post-secondary, graduate, and doctoral instruction, research to develop the workforce, intellectual capital, and innovations necessary to promote the economy and well-being of the state's citizenry. Although this is one of the larger portions of the graph as a whole, if California were to receive more funds from the federal government, it could dedicate more funds to public universities like the UCs and CSUs in an effort to lower tuition without having to pull from other programs.
Our group believes that if more states follow suit to what we believe California should do with their public education system, then our nation as a whole will have more access to a higher education and in turn increase productivity in the workforce, shifting aggregate supply out to the right. Also, since our plan involves a lot of government spending, we believe that aggregate demand will also shift out and to the right, and shifting the long-run aggregate supply to the right and increasing employment and GDP.
With the change in AS and AD at the same time, and the LRAS will shift to the right, we believe that ultimately the PPC curve will also shift out and to the right from A to B, with the increase in quality of human capital if more people have access to education, ultimately resulting in a better production possibilities.